you doing?
speaking, if they could just be as close to the mic.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
What do you want?
Just put it down like you guys.
Okay. Down here, I'm trying to say.
Good morning, Attorney Stan Jackson and Robert Gresham. We are the attorneys for the family for Tasha Grant. We're here today because on May 2nd, Tasha Grant had a medical emergency while being in the Cuyahoga County Jail, was sent to MetroHealth to be treated, and on May 2nd, 3 MetroHealth officers and one Cuyahoga County deputy sheriff held her down on the bed, on the hospital bed, applying their full weight, effectively suffocating her in that moment. As she yelled 23 times, "I can't breathe," pleaded for her life. They then left her there, and moments later she coded and died. We were able to watch the video of this, and I will tell you that we've been involved in a lot of cases. We've seen a lot of videos, and this is the most horrific that we've seen. There was total disregard for Miss Grant's life, for Tasha's life on that day. There was there's so many errors that were made on that day that Miss Grant, Tasha, her life mattered. Tasha didn't get the care that she needed in that moment. She didn't get the compassion and the decency she needed in that moment. And watching that video really, really, really is an example of a continued disregard for human life as it relates to the Cuyahoga County Sheriff and MetroHealth. There were so many errors and so many unfortunate circumstances that led to her untimely and tragic death in that moment. Robert?
Good morning, Robert Gresham, last name Gresham. The facts are known to everybody here. Tasha was a 39-year-old double amputee who was taken to MetroHealth to receive medical care. But instead, we got a tragedy. Instead of compassion and care, she received restraint and force. Instead of being treated as a patient who needed help, she was treated as a threat. And that's simply unacceptable. Now, this family is devastated. This is Andre Grant, who is standing next to me, the brother. This family is devastated, but they're determined. They're determined to hold everyone accountable that needs to be. They're determined to make sure that Tasha's name is not forgotten, to make sure that every party responsible is held responsible. So what are we asking for? We're asking first for transparency, which means release of all materials, all records, all videos that are related to this case. We're asking for reform. Reform of how we treat disabled persons who are vulnerable, how they're treated when they're in the custody of Cuyahoga County. And we're asking for accountability for every institution and every individual who's responsible for Tasha's death. This family's not going away, and neither are we. And on behalf of this family, we're going to pursue every single legal remedy available in the courts and in the court of public opinion. Because although this is about Tasha, this is not just about her life and her death. This is about every other individual and every other person that's vulnerable, that's in the Cuyahoga County system and also finds themselves in the clutches of MetroHealth, and they don't receive the care and the treatment that they need. Enough is enough. We're going to hold them accountable, justice for Tasha Grant, and justice for every individual who's in the custody of Cuyahoga County and MetroHealth. This time I'm going to introduce Andre Grant, who's Tasha Grant's brother.
I'm Andre Grant, the brother of Tasha Grant. Tasha Grant is missed by her son, Sissay Grant, her siblings love and miss her, and her family love and miss her.
He's 11.
We'll take questions at this time.
Mr. Grant, when you look at the footage and those clips, how do you wish your sister was handled?
Speak my attorney, please.
So the family, they love her. They wish that she would have been treated with the care that you would give to any loved one, anyone in that situation that had an issue that needed to be treated.
Andre, when did you learn what had happened to your sister?
Months later.
Was it when it was ruled a homicide?
Yes.
And how did you find that out?
Through the news.
What was that like to find out from the news, not from the county, not from the medical examiner's office, anybody like that?
Devastating.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's par for the course when it comes to this particular agency. When it comes to this particular county, we don't treat people fairly, and we don't treat them like human beings. So rather than letting this family know what was going on in May when all this occurred, here we are sitting here in September and October, and now we're finally learning details of what occurred. It's simply, it's simply unacceptable. And that's why we want transparency moving forward, and we want policy reform moving forward, because we're not going to allow this to happen to other families anymore. Enough is enough.
Andre, what kind of woman was your sister? Give people an idea if you don't know.
She's a mother. She also is a sibling. She also is a family member that people love, and she loved her family too.
Does she deserve to be remembered as more than what's on that body camera video?
Absolutely.
How do you remember your sister?
I love her and miss her, and I wish that never would happen.
What do you want to see happen here?
I want to see justice done for her and my nephew and the family.
Who has custody of her son now?
The kid's father.
So Tasha, she was a very funny, loving person. In her family, they often look to her for comfort. You know, the reality is that her son will never be able to have his mother there for his milestone moments in his life. She won't be there to teach him what, we all know that our mother is our first love. He won't be able to share that with her. The things that she's supposed to teach him and nurture him, he won't have. He will never have that. That is a tragedy. She was the comfort for her family. She was the person who brought everyone together, and now they are fractured. This family is fractured. This community is fractured. To be frankly honest with you, when we think about the tragedy that's happened to Tasha as a black woman in this community, it is a tragedy that she lost her life in this way. That night, that day, she even said that she was fearing for her life. That was a moment where she cried for help, and they callously just let her lie there and die, and didn't do anything to support or aid her, and didn't treat her with decency and humanity. This should tug at the core of who we are as Clevelanders, as Americans. We know in these instances, when someone says they can't breathe, it means they can't breathe. We learned that in 2020. There are numerous situations and cases that we all know, and these officers should have known in that moment. And they should have treated her with the decency she deserved.
Stan, you said the most horrific you've ever seen. What was it about this video that stands out, that makes it the worst?
We have a W amputee who can't go anywhere, and she has a gown on, and she's exposed, and they take her and they throw her on the edge of the bed, and four officers lean down with their full body weight on her, and she's begging 23 times, "I can't breathe." The nurses and the medical physicians there didn't aid her either. They didn't say, "Stop, she can't breathe." She was there for a medical issue, and that should have said, "Hey, she's not able to breathe."
She had been at the hospital before. Should they have known about her pre-existing heart condition that led to all of this restraint?
They knew she was there. They knew what she was there for. And this is a systemic failure across the board. And unfortunately, this is what happens with law enforcement in these situations. They act like they don't know what they're doing is killing people, and they say they weren't trained effectively. We're not going to allow that excuse to happen here. Because the reality is, everyone knows that you don't use this tactic anymore. It's rarely taught in a lot of academies because they know what it does. We know George Floyd can't breathe. We have plenty of instances and plenty of examples where people are placed in that position, and ultimately it results in exactly what happened here. A person can't breathe and they suffer from cardiac arrest. That is known to these officers. But even more tragically as well is the fact that you had medical providers who certainly should have known why she was there, certainly should have known she was in crisis and did absolutely nothing within the timely basis to make sure that she was saved and her life was salvaged. They did nothing. You see it on the video. Unfortunately, we're looking at a video, that's a body camera footage, which means that somebody is standing there not doing anything while Tasha Grant died on the bed in front of them in a hospital where she's supposed to be receiving life-saving treatment. It's unacceptable, and we're not going to allow that to pass.
Who's to blame here? Is it the Sheriff's Department? Is it MetroHealth? Is it MetroHealth Police? Is it all of them?
It's all of them.
Yeah, she died within the custody of Cuyahoga County, and she died at a MetroHealth facility under the care and treatment of medical providers there. Those are the first people we'll start with, but this is a total systemic failure across the board. No one did what they were supposed to do, and everybody will be held accountable.
What
Is there
exactly
any
does
doubt?
justice look like here? What exactly are you hoping to get out?
Yeah, so like we said initially, first, transparency. Give this family answers as to what happened. Stop hiding behind public records laws and give this family those answers. Second, we want the officers and the staff who are responsible to be held accountable, whether that means being fired, whether that means the exploration of criminal charges. We want everything looked at in this particular case. And ultimately, what we really want, I think what this family really wants, is policy reform. We need to learn how to treat the most vulnerable people in our populations. Just because people are in jail or just because people who are in custody or are aggressive and talking a particular way doesn't mean that they're not entitled to humanity. And how we treat the most vulnerable people in our population says a lot about who we are as a community and who we are as a society. So what that means is we need to start treating people, even if we don't agree with how they got there, with the utmost decency and respect, and make sure that their lives are saved when they have the opportunity to do so.
What sort of suit has been filed, just so we have that official?
No suit has been filed. We're still in the investigation phases. As you guys know, we're just receiving information just like everybody else. And candidly, we rely on you guys to find out a lot of the information as well. If you find out information, let us know. We have investigators looking into this. Once we get sufficient information and we determine that there's sufficient facts to move forward on the lawsuit, we'll do so. But we're still evaluating all those options at this time.
Can you guys believe she was having a mental health issue at that instance?
I think it's clear based on the video. But that's not unusual for folks in custody. But beyond just a mental health issue, she was scared. And if you look at the video, she says so. She's scared that she's gonna die. She's an exceptionally vulnerable person because she doesn't have legs. So she depends on people for a lot of different things. So she's even more scared in that circumstance. So the reality is she needs even more care than most, and she needs even more empathy than most because of what she's going through. And these officers and the folks at MetroHealth are trained to deal with people in mental health care crisis, but they chose to ignore her and they chose to treat her less than human, and that's unacceptable.
Do you guys believe what you saw in that video is criminal?
Yes. We believe those officers should be charged.
Andre?
Yes, she was not a threat. She was trying to get on the bed. She was not a threat.
Hey, you can talk to the prosecutor's office, but the reality is sometimes we get lost in the fact that, well, was this some sort of intentional murder or some sort of intentional homicide? That is an inclusive definition. Just because somebody doesn't necessarily intend to kill someone, if they knew better and they should have done better, and that's a very basic way of saying it under the law, they should have done different things and they should have taken different tactics. And there are criminal repercussions that can be held to those particular individuals. So we would call on the prosecutor and whoever I think there's a special prosecutor who's been assigned to this, to fully investigate this case and pursue all criminal avenues that are available.
They were more concerned with chaining her to the bed than they were handcuffing her to the bed, than making sure that she was treated for the issue that she had. She said she couldn't breathe, and they were hell-bent on making sure that they cuffed her to a bed. She didn't have any legs. Cuffing her to a bed. Really?
This is going to be polarizing for a lot of people when they see this because Tasha, respectfully, was going through a crisis, as you guys said, combative with staff and making threats as well. So, to the people who are on the other side of this story, or going to say, well, this is what happened and it was an outcome of that. What do you guys have to say to folks who have the other side of this?
Look, that's not an excuse. I mean, every individual who is in the jail or a similar situation who's brought over from a jail, usually there's some level of combativeness. I have 2 small children. The one thing I teach them is words don't hurt you. And these are trained professionals. There's no threat to these professionals. She is a double amputee who's sitting on the floor. Yeah, she's having a mental crisis and she's talking aggressively, but that's not an excuse to kill her and let her die. It's simply not. So whoever's on the other side who's feeling some particular way about it, I would ask them candidly to toughen up, because the reality is, just because she's talking a particular way, she's not a threat to any of those officers. And the problem is how they responded to her and the lack of decency that they gave to her and the lack of humanity they gave to her when she was dying in front of them on the bed. At that particular time, she wasn't saying anything. The only thing she said to these officers at that time was, "I can't breathe," and they ignored her.
Andre, can I ask you just what has the communication been like from the jail or from the hospital at this point to you guys, and an explanation of why that happened?
Nothing.
The unfortunate part is the way that the family found out about the death of Tasha was through the media. They weren't given the decency to come down to review the video. They weren't given the decency to get a copy of the autopsy report before everyone else did. They had to hear about this through the media. It's business as usual with the county. There's no decency or humanity with this administration. That is where we're at as a community. We have a real problem. And anyone looking at this video, this should touch the core of who you are. To see someone, to see this beautiful black woman plead for her life 23 times. There's no other side of it. There's no other side to this. We're all on the side of humanity and decency.
As for the timeline of what's next, obviously you guys are announcing, news here today, but what's the next step here?
We'll continue to evaluate all the information. There's hopefully a criminal investigation that's going on. Our experience in these cases is that oftentimes the prosecutor's offices and the investigative agency typically will hold on to that information as long as possible. We are calling on them to release that information to the family so the family has answers. Once we have all the information, we'll take the appropriate steps, whether that means filing in civil court or on some other avenues, but we're not going away. This family's not going away, and we're going to make sure that everybody who needs to be held accountable is held accountable.
Is Tasha your big or little sister?
Little sister, I'm the oldest.
Think about this. As a brother, you want to protect your little sister. And to watch this video and to see that happen to your little sister and you can't help her, and people who are supposed to help her, that's the tragedy.
Is there anything important that we didn't ask you guys about what's going to happen next and just how this moves forward?
I think you've heard what you need to hear. Enough is enough. Justice for Tasha Grant, and that's where we are. We're not going away. This family's not going away, and we're going to be here, continuing this fight as long as it takes.
With the history of problems and deaths in the Cuyahoga County Jail, is this another chapter in that story that needs to get rewritten?
This is another chapter in that story that should have been rewritten before we got here. And Tasha Grant would have not lost her life. The county has known for years that their policies and practice are unsafe, that their officers are not trained appropriately, that there's no accountability. We've seen this over and over again, the deaths that have happened at the county. You would have thought that they would have cared enough to make sure that something like this didn't happen again. And here we are. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that it doesn't happen going forward. And that is why we're going to be relentless in our investigation. We're going to have our own independent investigation. And Robert and I are going to be extremely aggressive with this administration, calling for a lot of reform and accountability. Tasha's life mattered. Tasha will be remembered. Tasha will be remembered.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Excuse me, can you quickly say and spell your name for me?
Stanley Jackson, first name STANLEYJACKSON.
Title?
Managing attorney, Robert.
Robert Gresham, first name traditional spelling ROBERT, last name GRESHAM.
And attorney for the family?
Attorney for the family, for the estate.
Full name, please.
Andre Grant, ANDRE, last name GRANT.
Sorry.
Thank you guys. Sorry we were a little late.
okay.
60
Traffic.
years old.
It's okay.
And do you guys have any photos of Tasha that
Everybody's
we
been
can share?
asking for me. We have some of the social media photos, but we'll work on getting those to everybody. And I think
Okay.
you all have Stanley's information, so we'll make sure we get some pictures. So check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying.
Either me or Ryan Julius.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. So Brittany's the person who texted.